Hi guys, how are you? Good. Thank you very much for having me. I'm having a ball. I was actually here last year for a 50th surprise party. This place is off the charts. This is an awesome place to hang. So I'm sure you're all having a great time. I have about half an hour to speak with you, so I'm going to try to fill in as much as I can. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so I tend to talk quick. And I am going to speak quickly as I get rolling, but I'm going to hit on some salient points that I hope maybe are things you may have not heard before that you can apply to your lives every day. And if you do have any questions, maybe so that I can get through more material, I'd love to answer them. I just don't want to be long-winded or go too long. So maybe we can hold them for the end, and then I'll be glad to answer whatever you like. Is that fine with everybody? Yeah. Great, thanks. So before I get into the topic of tonight, I want you to get to know me a little bit. That's my background. So my history is, as I said, born and raised in Brooklyn. Yep, very happy about that. That's okay. And as a result of that, I had a great upbringing. I love my family, my neighborhood. I was a church-going kid. I went to Catholic school, the whole 9 yards. Everything about my childhood was positive until about the age of 17. At the age of 17, for some reason, I started becoming super depressed, really thinking terrible, negative thoughts about everything in my life, and I had no reason to because I was actually a very happy, productive, well-educated kid. And my parents didn't know what to do with me, so I ended up in 3 different physicians' offices where they didn't know what to do with me, and I ended up in a medical institution in Manhattan, volunteering to put myself in, not knowing that I couldn't get out. And I ended up spending 7 weeks locked down in St. Vincent's Hospital, heavily medicated on Thorazine, Haldol, Tegretol, and lithium all at the same time. So here I am in this place, and I don't know how I got here and how the heck to get out of here. And I'm 17. And at this time at St. Vincent's, they had a program where they put us in with adults. So you have kids and adults in the same ward. My roommate was an alcoholic who would drink scope and rubbing alcohol and seizure in front of me. One of my friends had thought she was Jesus Christ, jumped in front of an L train, lost her arms and her legs. These are the people that I'm hanging out with now. So I'm stuck in this place and I can't get out. And after about 5 weeks of talking to my psychiatrist, whose name was, ready for this, Arcangelo Calabresi, was my psychiatrist. How you name your kid Arcangelo is beyond me, but he was Arcangelo. So I finally realized what I had to say to get out, so I got out. And now I'm home, and I'm in my last year of high school. I missed my senior year. Everybody in the neighborhood knew I was the crazy guy that didn't go to school. So I became very withdrawn. I became even more paranoid. I was afraid to go out. And for the next 2 years, my life just went downhill. As a result of that, I gained 100 pounds of weight. I was pre-suicidal in that I didn't want to hurt myself, but I used to get up and fantasize what it would be like to not have to get up anymore because I was in a really bad place. So this is going on, and I'm just going into this deep hole, and everything is just getting worse and worse. And one day, I got fed up. I had a bunch of drugs in my hand that I was supposed to take. It was a rainy day. I was all by myself. I was miserable. And I just decided I was done with this. So I had a good talk with God that day. And I said, look, I don't know what is going on in your mind that you would make me this great kid, and then you would take everything away from me and make me so miserable that I wanted to not be here. But if this is your plan for me, I'm out. So I said, I make a vow here and now to you, God, that I will never, ever take another prescribed drug for the rest of my life. And I took the drugs and I poured them in the rain and washed the drugs down the drain. In one day, I quit 4 major psychotropic drugs. I got up the next day. My mother was crying because she thought that I was going to kill myself. My brothers were telling me I had to take the drugs. And my father, who was probably the least educated guy I ever knew, but the nicest man I ever knew, said if he says he can do it, let him do it. So my father grew up on the streets of Bensonhurst with all the guys from the 70s that were all the mobsters we read about in the paper. Those were all my dad's friends. So he grew up with all the guys in the neighborhood. So my father's friends were the guys in the neighborhood. So my father never went to school. He played a lot of stickball. He was a semi-pro baseball player for the Detroit Tigers, and my grandfather was a tile setter, so he worked for my grandfather. That was about it. We worked with our hands. We were good to our families, like all of you could relate to. I'm sure Rocco can relate to that. And you go on and you build. So that was my father. So meanwhile, everybody tells me I can't quit the drugs. I quit them, I move on, and in that one day I give them all up, and now I start trying to figure out how I got here and what I had to do to change my life. So instead of going to the bagel shop every day and eating 6 bagels a day, which is what I would do, I went to Jack LaLanne down the block on 86th Street, and I started training 3 hours a day at the gym. I started swimming and running and doing everything I could, and in about 8 months I lost about 85 pounds. I got back in great shape. I started looking like myself again. I started dressing appropriately. I started shaving, cleaning myself up. I got my head out of the sand and I came back. Now, why do I tell this story? It's because the worst thing in my life was the best thing in my life. And I know that you can all relate to this. We do not grow unless we get knocked around. If life was too easy, you wouldn't stretch. And I know for myself, at all the lowest points in my life was when the greatest amount of growth occurred. So at the very lowest point in my life as a kid was when my life turned around. At the age of 19, I had such a deep appreciation for life that I stopped sweating the small stuff. I didn't care about nonsense anymore. I became a very old soul at a very young age. I could appreciate the knighthood sky at 19 years old. I could appreciate walking around and not being medicated. And this made me appreciate life and love and happiness and joy. And as a result of that, I wanted to know more about the human condition. Why do people self-sabotage? Why do people let themselves deteriorate when they have all the things they need and yet they can't seem to find their way? So I started studying health. Took me into chiropractic college after college. I became a chiropractor at the age of about 28. Unfortunately, during that time, I watched my father succumb to cancer. So in my second trimester, my dad died of lung cancer, so I had to deal with that. Another step in a direction. And then I became a chiropractor. In that time, I married my fiance. We moved out here to Long Island after school, because I went to school in Long Island and Levittown. And we settled out here in Shoreham. So we've been in Shoreham since 1996. That's my neighborhood. And I've been practicing down the road off 25A in Miller Place since 1993. So that's my story up to that point. So I'm treating people as a chiropractor, wearing my chiropractic hat. And I start noticing that some people get better with my work and some people don't, and it starts to bother me. Why doesn't everybody get better when you give them an adjustment? Because you're taught in chiropractic college, when you adjust everybody, everybody gets better. That ain't the case. That's not what happens. So I start interviewing people and I try to find out, like, why won't you get, what's going on with you that you can't get better? And I keep hearing the same things over and over again. I have stress in my life. My kids are driving me crazy. My parents are driving me crazy. My siblings are fighting with me. Everybody's got somebody, right? It just doesn't end. So then I started saying, well, what are you eating? You know, the people that were eating garbage could not handle stress. The people that were eating food could handle stress better than people that were eating like ring dings and, Swedish fish for breakfast and coffee all day long, and I know these people, they're my patients. So what we began to learn here as time went on is that you have to love your body and you have to feed your body like you would feed a beautiful car. High test gas, get the oil changed every 3,000 miles, and then the car will run. Human body's the same way. So I begin to treat my patients with a different hat. I start talking to them about nutrition. I start looking at laboratory work. Back in the 90s, I became a functional medicine practitioner. I start looking at labs to understand why the body's breaking down. Now, you guys believe that you're going to break down as you age. Now, I'm looking around in the room, and I see a lot of people that are, seasoned people. I don't like the word old. I think we're just wiser, right, as we get older. And I think wisdom is what we get for becoming older. So I don't mind getting older as long as all my stuff works. Like, that's my thing. Does all your stuff work? So in our office, we want to help your stuff work. But we want you to do it without medications, without narcotics, without synthetic things. We want you to do it with food and good health and good nutrients. So as a result of my quest, and that's what it is, to become the best version of myself, I keep stretching myself, and I'm always out on the road at seminars and learning. And I ended up becoming acquainted with the Grand Master of my order, who is also the bishop of the church that I'm ordained in, who is also the health minister for the island of Nevis in the Caribbean. Anybody ever been to St. Kitts, Nevis? It's a great place to sail into. If you like boating, you're going to want to go to St. Kitts, Nevis. I've been there on New Year's Eve. It's a great place to spend the New Year. So it's a very quaint little island in the Caribbean, and it attracts a lot of affluent people. But my church is there, and so is the hospital that I'm doing my residency in, and so is Dr. Charles. So as I began, now why would I study theology? What is that about? Well, here's why, just so you know why I ended up studying theology. Do you know that medicine from today came from the monasteries? It came from the nuns and the monks and the priests that would take care of people. So because I wanted to know the history of healing, I went all the way back to the beginning of time to study what nuns would do for the people they took care of, what the monks did for people. And believe it or not, for all of you that are fans of Yale University, our very first medical doctors were Puritans that came from the old world to the new world, and they were connected to the church, and then they formed Yale University. So all of our doctorate programs that exist in this country are because of the monasteries. That's why I'm studying monastic medicine. So I wanted to broaden my horizons and bring the information I picked up over the years to you very quickly. And that's my background. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded, but now you know why I say and think the way I say and think. So regarding stress, has anybody ever heard of the adrenal glands? A couple of you, okay. Everybody in here needs to know what the adrenal glands are, because this system will either make or break your health for the rest of your life. The adrenal glands are two little plum-sized glands that sit over your kidneys, and they make all the stress hormones that you need in order to be able to handle stress. Ladies, these glands convert over after menopause to make your hormones. So I've worked with over 10,000 women hormonally to help them fix themselves, and I can tell you that for any of you ladies that have struggled with physical stress, premenopausally or postmenopausally, and had a rough time transitioning, it's because you had adrenal fatigue that was never diagnosed and corrected. So just so you know, ladies, you are not supposed to have symptoms whether you're premenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal. So that weepiness and irritability that you used to get or that you're still getting is abnormal. The changes in your physical selves that a lot of the ladies complain to me about is not normal. And if your adrenal system were working appropriately, you wouldn't have those symptoms. So if any of you ladies have ever had a hot flash, don't laugh at me, whether premenopausally or postmenopausally, you had adrenal stress. And guys, you're not off the hook either. We know that we lose our testosterone levels after the age of 35 because that's just the way nature does it. But I can tell you this, guys, guess what makes testosterone for you as you age? Your adrenal glands. So I have programs for men. In fact, this is June, and in honor of Father's Day, I'm doing a weekly series on YouTube to teach men how to drive their hormones after the age of 60 without drugs and without testosterone from a synthetic source. So there's a whole program you can do on that as well. Bottom line, no matter what you do from this night forward, you should always drive your adrenals for the rest of your life. And let me give you some quick tidbits of information. You need a good quality B vitamin from an organic source. I don't want it from Costco. I don't want it from the vitamin shop. You should know where your B vitamins are coming from, and you should consume them every day. You're never going to OD on B vitamins. You also want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. Sleep is underrated and underutilized by the human species. Why must you have 8 hours of restorative sleep every night? Because from the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. when you're supposed to be sleeping, you restore your mind and your body. So just so you know, between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m., you restore your mind from stress. body from stress, and then from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. you heal your mind. If you're a late night person and you're up till midnight every night, there's a greater chance you're going to have arthritis and degeneration of your body because you're not restoring your body. And if you fall asleep on the couch at 9 o'clock and wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning wide awake because you passed out for 6 hours and you don't sleep between 2 and 6 a.m., you're going to be weepy, irrational, and depressed. So half of you in here that are having symptoms of weak bodies or weak minds are because you're not sleeping when you should be sleeping. So there's a couple of tricks with restoring sleep that we want to touch on to. One of them is try to get yourselves into the habit of going to bed at a better hour. Try not to take your iPads, phones, devices, stimulatory objects into the bedroom. Leave them either far away from your dresser or outside your room. Additionally, do not bring anything into the room that has an odor. Don't bring food in your bedroom. Don't burn candles in your bedroom. And I know a lot of people like oils, but don't burn oils while you're sleeping at night because you stimulate the senses of smell and you can actually wake yourself up out of bed. So you don't want to do that either. The other thing you want to do is when you go into bed, bed is for sleeping. Bed is not for working. Bed is not for doing anything other than marital fun. But after you're done with that part, you've got to go to sleep. You cannot sit there and being on your computer at 10:30 at night and getting yourself all jazzed up. I definitely would not be watching the news at all anyway. But I wouldn't be watching the news in my bedroom in my bed because I'm not going to be able to sleep after watching the news. And I wouldn't watch movies and things like that. I wouldn't stimulate myself. I would read poetry. I would read something that uplifts me, or I would pray. Meditation. That's what I would do before bed. If you incorporate those things into your life, you will start to sleep better. And if you start to sleep better, you will age more gracefully. Now listen, you think that old means old. You think that aging means old. It does not. I can prove to you scientifically that time has nothing to do with aging. You think because time is progressing, your body is just deteriorating. That is not true. Aging is due to two major factors. Number one is inflammation. Inflammation ages the body. Number two is lack of genetic coding to duplicate your DNA. Now, if you don't know how to maintain your DNA through health and nutrition, that's when you're going to age. Now, how do you maintain DNA? Well, there's things that actually help you grow telomeres, which are little parts of DNA that help you replicate your DNA better so that you age less. The other thing that ages you guys is sugar. Now, whether it's a glass of awesome Cabernet or Merlot from our Vineyard friends, or it's M&Ms, or it's chocolate, as our ladies love chocolate, we know that. Whatever your poison is, you have to understand that sugar is nothing more than a tasteful poison, and it will actually age you. So for you ladies out there that want to age beautifully and keep your skin wrinkle-free, guess what sugar does to the collagen in your skin? It destroys it. It actually breaks apart the collagen links. Your skin begins to sag. So what can you do to reverse that? The first thing is you go off sugar. The second thing is you learn how to put products into your body that actually change your cells. And that's why in my office we not only do nutrition, we do stem cell therapy. Just so you guys are up on what's going on in stem cells, do you know that there are stem cells now you can take that are oral in nature? You don't have to get injected or have a medical prescription for stem cell therapy now. So we carry those stem cells in my office. We get them from Switzerland, from the company that invented DNA testing back in the 40s and actually found out what stem cells were. So if you want to make the body more youthful, you take stem cell therapy. If you want to preserve the body and grow new organ systems, you take nutrition that's from a holistic source. So the nutrition that we use in our office is organic nutrition grown from plants. And this nutrition will actually not only strengthen the body, you can grow new organs with this stuff. You overturn your cells on a daily basis. You make a new liver, a new kidney, a new heart, a new stomach, new skeletal muscle. Everything changes from day to day, week to week. Do you know there are stomach cells that you have that literally live about 30 minutes and then they're replaced? So when people say to me, I'm old and there's nothing you can do about it, or my body is dying, there's nothing you can do about it, I vehemently disagree. Because you can change anything when you know how. So much so that when we do an examination in the office, I could actually have you hold a bottle of nutrition, and I could show you strength returning to your body as you hold the nutrition in your hand over an organ system that's stressed. That's what we do in my office. I've done that for Rocco, I've done that for the Shields family. And if you've never had that type of exam, it's actually quite intriguing because you don't realize that you can fix virtually anything when you know how. And that goes for cancer too. So cancer is probably the most dangerous, most scary thing that people are confronted with. And I treat patients with cancer, and they do quite well in my office. I treat patients with arthritic disorders, rheumatoid problems, autoimmune disease, virtually anything that could interact and destroy your body, we can evaluate, examine, and bring back. So, with that being said, I know I'm running out of time already. I have a couple of minutes. It already went so quickly. Just to give you an idea of how I would look at health, in terms of how to maintain and magnify health. The number one thing you have to remember is to be well hydrated. You must drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day minimum. For every cup of coffee you have, that's 6 to 8 ounces, add another 6 to 8 ounces of water. So if you're a big coffee drinker, you have to double your amount of water intake per day. Number two, you must have good sleep. I talked enough about sleep, you understand the sleep game. Number three, you must have and maintain a healthy diet, which includes good macronutrients, which are things like proteins, healthy complex carbohydrates, and vegetables. Number four, you have to use nutritional supplementation. If you don't know by now that our soils are demineralized and that the nutrients and minerals that we need to grow these bodies is no longer in our food, and it's not. I don't care if you're eating organic, you're not getting enough. There's areas in your system that are going to break down if you don't feed them the proper nutrients they need. So how do you know what you need and what you don't need before you end up sick? There is no system that your medical physicians have for you. I have the system. So I would examine each and every one of you, and just by a 10-minute examination, I could tell you what systems are under stress, what nutrients will fix those systems, and what you have to do to regrow a healthier version of yourself to handle any underlying health condition you have way before you become diseased. That is the secret to living 100 to 120 years. You don't medicate 100 to 120. There are 5 cultures on the planet that live between 100 and 120 years. The only problem is they're also married for 100 years. And they're not really happy about that. So, yes?
I'm curious as to what your opinion is on drifting alkaline. So, alkalinity in water and in food.
So, question is, what do you think about alkalinity in water and food? So there are 3 things that will kill cancer. One of them is alkalinity. Alkalinity means pH above 7. You guys remember chemistry? Water is at 7, that's the base. And then alkalinity is higher than 7, acidity is less. So cancer grows in 3 mediums. Number 1, it grows in acidity. So cancer loves acid. Number 2, cancer hates oxygen. So in our office, when patients have cancer that they want me to treat for them, I give them alkalinity through different products. We get them on hydrogen peroxide therapy, which is liquid oxygen, which kills cancer. And then the third thing is absolutely 0 sugar. Cancer loves sugar. Do you know what a PET scan is? A PET scan is a scan that they do on you after they inject you with glucose. Cancer cells light up like a Christmas tree when you're injected with glucose. That's what a PET scan is. So why on earth would you feed cancer sugar if you wanted to live? Now getting to the alkalinity of water, I'm not a fan. I'll tell you why. If your stomach pH is between 1 and 3, which is what it's supposed to be, and you go and drink a 9.5 alkaline water from pH Fountain, which everybody in Port Jefferson is doing. Now you take a 9.5 pH and you mix it with a 1.0 pH. What did you just do to your stomach acid? You just diluted your stomach acid. So if you're going to drink alkalized water, you must do it on an empty stomach. It's the same thing with drinking while you're eating. Ideally, you should not drink anything while you're eating food. Why? Because you want the food to hit the stomach and get hit by the hydrochloric acid and melt into a liquid so you can absorb it down your small intestine. But we drink water because it's an American tradition, but it weakens the acid in the stomach. So I'm kind of like yes and no on the alkalinity. I just don't like the water. She wants to know, should you start your morning with it? Only if you're not going to eat for an hour. Best way to get alkalinity is through your greens. Darker the greens, the better. Broccoli, kale, spinach, but organic. Organic foods have 35 to 50% more of the alkalizing properties than inorganic foods. So your greens, lots of greens. Greens, greens, greens. That's why you can't OD on greens. The other thing, yes? All right, so we're in the Q&A session, guys. No, if you didn't realize it, guys, here we are. So let's go. Yeah. Awesome question. So is there a test for the adrenal glands? 2 tests for the adrenal glands you can do at home. Great question. Number 1, you take your blood pressure seated and standing. Now listen to this. When you sit down and take your blood pressure, ideally it should be about 120/80, right? When you stand, because of the pressure it takes to push the blood back up towards the heart, your blood pressure should rise 10 millimeters of mercury. So normal blood pressure seated should be 10 millimeters higher when you stand. That would be 130/80. If you go from seated to standing and your blood pressure does not rise, you have adrenal stress. That's a good test, but there's an easier test. I'm going to teach you the papillary adrenal stress test. When you shine a light in somebody's eyes, you ever seen a movie when the guy's dead and they shine the light in his eyes and his pupils are fixed and dilated? When somebody has good adrenals and you shine a light in their eye, the pupils constrict down really small. But somebody who's got adrenal stress, the pupils will do this. They'll open and close. They can't hold the constriction because the adrenals are weak. So that's a really cool test. And that one you can do at home when you go home tonight in your own mirror with a pen light. So I really like that test for self-diagnosis. The other thing I want to share with you, getting back to the aging thing, please don't be afraid to age. You know, don't be afraid, because unfortunately you don't have a choice but to get older. But here's the thing, okay? Do not compromise on function because you're older. Don't try to sit there and tell me, well, I can no longer play golf because I'm 70. Or I can no longer, bowl because I'm 70. Or I can no longer work out at the gym because I'm 40. Or I can't get off the couch because I have arthritis in my knees. I've got 4 blown discs in my back. I had ripped rotator cuffs and menisci in college and high school. Listen, guys, I fixed all that stuff even after it couldn't be fixed. Everything can regrow. Everything can be corrected. But here's the trick above all that. This is the secret. The secret to truly healing is to actually believe that you can heal. So, quick course on epigenetics. Epigenetics means the study of genetics above what normal genetics is. They have proven that what you believe and what you think is more powerful than what is in the physical universe. This is quantum physics. So my point is that, and this is why I wanted to study theology, because when you live in the world of science, you always crisscross with theology and the belief in God, because scientists don't like to discuss God. I love to discuss both, and I can spend hours talking about both. But here's the thing that's most important, and it doesn't even matter if you don't believe in God. It matters that you believe in something. And if your belief in the power of you is stronger than the disease you have, you will heal. I'm telling you, it's true. If you also have a negative on this and you believe that no matter what you do in your life, no matter what you take, no matter who you speak to, you're not going to get well because you're miserable, you ain't going to get well. And I mean that. So I have seen stage 4 cancer. I had this happen in my office last year. We had a patient, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. You know that you don't survive pancreatic cancer, right? This patient has stage 4 pancreatic cancer in March of 2017. He comes to me dying, and he said, I was told that you can help me, maybe you can help me. I take him on, I examine him, I find plastic in his liver, and I find metals in his pancreas. So I start cleansing him of the plastic and the metals, and I put him on the appropriate program, and I tell him to go home and thank God for his life and meditate every night. And in 2 months, his cancer was gone. And we have MRIs to prove. It's not just me saying it. I have pre and post MRIs. I have the MRIs from his physician. The physician refused to believe it. Nobody would talk to me about it because I called the oncologist. I wanted to discuss it with him. Sloan Kettering wouldn't even talk to me. So I'm accustomed to people telling me I'm a witch doctor, I'm a weird guy. Yes, I am. But I will help you with things that nobody else ever helped you with because I don't think like those other people. And that's exactly what you want when you're playing with cancer, because cancer don't play by the rules. But I can tell you that what you think and what you feel and what you believe will heal you. And if you listen to the people that are trying to tell you that you can't heal, you're not going to heal. You have to listen to yourself, because the power of healing is within you. You just have to acknowledge it. Everything that you need to fix you, you already possess. You just have to see it. And then once in a while, you might need a little help from a guy like me that knows a few things. But I promise you that everything that you need is inside of you. So before I finish up for tonight, how am I doing on time? Am I good? I'm running a little late. I got to move? Okay. What we brought for you, we brought a couple of gifts for you. So I didn't know what you would want from me, so I figured, what can I bring them that they might want? So one of my favorite CDs, this I created, I did this for a lecture for a group of doctors, but it's in layperson, language, so you can understand it just like a doctor would. So if you want to know everything about your heart and how to fix your heart without taking drugs, you want this heart CD. I actually teach this to medical physicians across the country and teach them how to heal the heart naturally. So this is about an hour-long CD of me teaching you how to fix mitral valve stenosis, aortic regurgitation, bradycardia, tachycardia, high blood pressure. Name a heart condition, we can fix it. Now, if you want this, it's here. All we have to do is sign up for our newsletter at the table. And Danielle, raise your hand, Danielle. Danielle will help you with that if you want to see her. Now, if you don't care about the heart, that's fine. Vaccination's a big deal right now. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody has an opinion about it. Well, I had an opinion about it 3 years ago when I recorded myself on a CD. So I did a lecture for a group of doctors about 2-3 years ago. And forget about today's vaccine issue. I went all the way back to the polio vaccine, which you were all taking. So if you guys remember polio, I have a little tidbit of information that you're not going to like, but you need to know. Between the ages or the time of 1955 to 1963, the Centers for Disease Control admitted that they gave a cancer-causing polio vaccine to 198 million people. And if you were inoculated between 55 and 63, you were inoculated with a cancer-causing polio virus. And it's proven, it's footnoted, I have the studies. Don't get mad at me, I didn't do it. I'm just telling you what I know. But it gets even better because beyond that study, the CDC started doing experimentation. And believe it or not, if you hear the story on this CD, it goes all the way into the creation of AIDS and the driving of cancer. It's all on this CD. So when you ask me my opinion on vaccination, I won't even debate you until you've listened to this CD. And everything, there's 8 footnotes that prove that I'm right, because I'm also a very deep-rooted researcher. So if you're interested in that story, grab this one. And then ladies, just so you know, I've worked with over 10,000 women in my career. I've literally been balancing hormones for 25 years since I cured my wife's infertility when we were told we couldn't have kids. That's why I know the adrenals and women's hormones and everything else. And I work individually with women from the age of 15 all the way up to 85. It really doesn't matter how old you are. If you are a woman and you want to be a woman, this is the CD that you should have. This CD is the synopsis of my guide that I created to teach you ladies how to restore your health, your vitality, your hormones. But the most important part of this, I just want to finish with this. I'm going to tell you ladies something that you've all said to your husbands, your kids, your parents, your children, no matter who it was. I'm always giving and giving. Nobody ever gives me a break. If I don't do it, it's not going to get done. My work is never done. That's the Mother Teresa syndrome. And all of you ladies have it. The Mother Teresa syndrome is the syndrome where you think that nobody is going to do anything for you if you don't do it for yourself. And you give and give and give, and everybody takes and takes and takes. So there is a solution for the Mother Teresa syndrome, and we discussed that on here. Okay, they're going to throw me off. I got to get off. So I want to thank you guys for having me. I hope I gave you something of value. Stay well. God bless. Talk to you soon.
That was different, right?